With everything in front of you here for these next 3 games, just what's the excitement level, especially considering you guys weren't in the playoff chase the last couple of years, so to be in it right now?
Yeah, it's encouraging to have meaningful games in December, to feel like we're playing for something, to have a chance at a division title. All those things are in front of us, and if that had been, said to us in August that we'd have a chance in December to play for division title, we'd have taken it. Whether it's we're 6-7 or much better than that, we've still got everything we set out to accomplish at the beginning of the season in front of us. So lots to play for, lots to work towards, and that's why we've got to have a great week of preparation and maximize every chance we get to be ready for Sunday.
Sacks aren't coming for the Bills yet, but they obviously have a lot of great athletes up front. What are you looking out for from their line?
Yeah, very good players all the way through their defense and all the way through their team. So, from a defensive standpoint, great pass rushers and also very good at stopping the run. A talented secondary, very athletic, a lot of guys who are fast. So, and then obviously the scheme itself can be very complex and throw a lot at you. And it'll be a great challenge for us, but certainly will be something that we need to be well prepared for and be ready to adapt as the game goes on.
Everybody talks about the league being week to week and all that. How hard is it not to look ahead when you have a 3-game block here? Determines whether you win a division title, get eliminated, whatever happens. How do you avoid the tie-breaking scenarios? All this stuff the ancillary stuff that comes with being in this position, because you guys haven't been here in a few years.
Yeah, I think what helps me stay week to week in this league is when you look at what you have to do each week, it's a lot. And when you start to look further down the road, you just get overwhelmed. So for me, I just feel like I have enough to focus on with just the Bills alone, that to let my mind go to the Eagles or the Cowboys or what's at stake, it just becomes too much. I'd much rather just focus on the Bills and leave it one day, 1 week at a time. So that helps me. But exciting, what's in store, and we just have to make the most of our opportunities.
Kirk, your sack numbers are up in recent games, but your interceptions are also way down. A few of those sacks have been coverage sacks. Is there a correlation there maybe? Or are you maybe willing to take a sack rather than maybe make an error with a football you might have thrown in previous years?
I don't know. I think as I play longer, I'm able to gain more experience and continue to become a better decision maker, which will be an ongoing process as long as I play. I do agree that a lot of those sacks were coverage sacks, and I would look back and say, how can I avoid the sack? Throw it away, leave the pocket, whatever it may be to avoid that sack. So I think there are, even with the higher sack numbers, there are still things that I can be doing better to, yes, avoid turnovers, but also probably avoid those sacks as well.
Last 3 games when the defense gives you guys the turnover and sets you up, you guys haven't been able to cash in with a touchdown yet. Anything you've looked at in particular or will emphasize there this week?
Yeah, I think each situation is different, but the one this past week, I felt like the penalty we got then sets you back. I mean, it's hard to overcome those long yardage penalties. So, whether you have that after a turnover or on a normal drive, it's going to be hard to convert when you have them. So I think the bigger issue than in that specific one than, we didn't convert after a turnover is we can't have those penalties would be the bigger issue, because that's actually what, forced us to have to punt, I think. So there's no doubt when you turn the football over, the other team does, you've got to be able to capitalize in this league. And if you don't, you let teams hang around, and that's where you can get beat. So it certainly is a point of emphasis. But more importantly is, okay, once we get the football back, what is our job on each individual play so that we do stay on the field? And for a couple of those times, it's been avoid those penalties.
Kirk, I was talking to Pierre Thomas last night, and he said that you guys had a conversation when he first got here, and you were telling him, anything you need to learn the offense, and you guys talked also a little bit about leadership. What did you take away from that conversation? As he's a guy who's obviously been around the league for a long time and has won a Super Bowl. Yeah, I think you're always trying to gain knowledge from experienced players like Pierre, especially when they come in from other teams, and he's had a lot of success with the Saints, playing in one of the best offenses in football for the past almost a decade. So I felt like he's got a lot to share, and I just try to be a good question asker and pick his brain. And, I think there'll still be a lot more to learn as we go. But great to have guys like him and other vets that we've picked up as the year goes on who have that experience and know what it's like to win and win consistently. And I think those guys can have a valuable imprint on our locker room and on the maturity of our team. Related, you guys had 2 instances on Sunday where you had trouble getting the play in. When you look back at what you could have done, Jay said there was one, the one down by the goal line, he said was really on him, not being able to get personnel in. When you look at both of those, what could you have done differently, and how is that a learning experience for you? Maybe just calling a play on your own or whatever the solution may be.
Yeah, I think in that situation, 3rd and 1, I probably could have looked at the formation and said, all right, this is the formation, or this is the personnel grouping we have in. What plays do we have out of that personnel grouping? And I could have just called a play off the top of my head. In that situation, 3rd and 1, part of me feels like it's probably better to get the best possible play than to just, dial something generic up in such a crucial situation. But I think looking back in hindsight, you might say, to avoid the penalty, just take a look at the personnel grouping and call a play on your own off the top of your head.
Wins and losses and trying to make the playoffs matter in terms of team goals, of course, but individually this has in many ways been sort of a year of evaluation for you as your first chance to be the starting guy and play week after week. How has that in any way entered your thinking, that last part, that sort of evaluation part during the year, and how would you evaluate your season?
Yeah, I think it's my job to prepare, look forward to the next challenge. I think when the season's over, then I look back and say what did I do well, what do I need to improve upon. I think the big picture. I think it's the team's job to evaluate, the coach's job, your guys' job. For me, I just focus on the next game, the Bills, trying to finish what we started and finish strong. And there'll be plenty of talk in the coming months about how I did over the whole span, but I feel like I'm still in the middle of it, and there's people remember how you finish. So regardless of what I've done the first 13 games, they're going to remember the last 3. So there's still a lot of work to be done.
Kirk, I totally understand you're focused on Buffalo right now, but thinking of the team in general, has there been a common thread or common even foible in your view of this team's inability to follow one victory with another? And then is there anything that's been said or you've seen in the past 48 hours that makes you think this week is going to be the difference? It's going to work differently?
Yeah, I don't know that anything in the last 48 hours has suddenly made me feel like, oh, we're going to win this week. But I do think that it's unfortunate that we haven't been able to win 2 games in a row, and part of the reason why we're 6-7 and not better than that is because we haven't been able to consistently win. And I'll be the first one to tell you that that's got to change. And much like winning on the road, we've got to be more consistent putting a string of games together. And I think we can all look at ourselves and say, what can each of us do better? And as a group, how can we be a more mature football team to find ways to win consistently? And if we do that, because we've been in some of these games where we probably could have pulled them out, with halftime leads or fourth quarter opportunities, could have pulled out some wins. If you pull out a couple, now you're sitting in a really good place and feel really good about not only this year, but the organization, the team we have going forward. So, I think we're close, but it's still a process, and we're working towards where we want to be.
How much fun is it for you to play with Jordan Reed, and how impressed have you been with what he's been able to do so far this season?
Very impressed and a lot of fun, to answer your question. He's an outstanding tight end. He's elite at his position, and what we need him to do, he does it at a high level. And, for me as a quarterback, I'm a distributor, and I need those guys to get open. I need time to throw, and Jordan makes my job easy because he gets open and he makes plays. And what's exciting is how he's been able to stay healthy and be consistently productive, whereas I feel like in the past you didn't know if you were going to have him because of injury. So his consistency has been a lot of fun to see as well. And he's only in his 3rd year, and because of some of his injuries, he's still a very young player, and I think we've only scratched the surface as to what he's capable of being with another offseason of work and development.
You guys were in the playoff chase in 2012. What do you remember about those last few games, and maybe how these will be a little bit different than a regular game?
Yeah, I remember in 2012 we were playing catch-up because of the hole we had dug ourselves, and so every week was like a playoff game leading up to the playoffs, and we found a way in several tight games. But every week you win, you build more confidence. The team gains that chemistry that you want to have, and it's a results-based business, so when you win, everybody feels good. And I remember that run being just a lot of fun, and winning some big spotlight games down the stretch, and hopefully we can have a repeat of that type of performance down the stretch here as well.
Going back to Jordan, what changes have you seen in him? I mean, we saw the talent in the first couple of years, but have you seen changes in him, subtle, big, as a route runner, as a receiver?
I just think when you play in this league and you're out there, when you're going to get better. You know, every game, every practice, as long as you're going out there with the right mindset, you're going to improve. And it could be, you know, an understanding of route running. It could be in his you know, blocking. It could be ball security, whatever it may be. But there's also a level of building a rapport with the guys around you. You know, to have a chemistry, if you will, an understanding of how a guy runs routes and what routes he likes and where he likes the football. I still feel like we're in the early stages of that, and that's something that could grow, you know, much further in the future. But we start to build that kind of a rapport with a guy like Jordan when you're out there together consistently, and I think that goes a long ways as well.
Completely unrelated. The run game has been up and down this year, as you know, but Jay wants to stay committed to it. As a quarterback, how important is it to you that you guys remain committed to the run game?
I just want to move the football. I think when you run the ball successfully, it makes my job much easier as a quarterback. When you run the ball unsuccessfully, then you're behind the chains, and I think it makes the job a little tougher. So whatever way is the best way to move the football week to week is how I want to do it. And I think that, and I've said this before, to just abandon the run game would be a little foolish because it is a great help when you can get it going. And but there are times where, you know, maybe first, second down, we've got to throw the ball more because we feel like that's the best way to move the football. I think it just varies from week to week, defense to defense, and what we feel like gives us the best chance to move the ball and ultimately win.
Kirk, Jay talked yesterday about you know, the interception, how you had said that, you know, you didn't see Fuller, and Jay was saying that, you know, those are the ones where as you progress here, you have to see those. How do you evaluate decisions like that as you move forward, even after a game that, aside from that, was pretty good on Sunday?
Yeah, I think if you don't see the defender, it's not so much I have to see him. I think it's if you don't see him, don't throw it. So I think going forward, you continue to feel like, hey, if you're throwing a ball blind, you know, progress and move to the next receiver in the progression or check it down to your outlet to a halfback. So that would be the coaching point there. And, you know, you continue to learn from those and you know, just try to avoid throwing a ball that feels like it may be a little blind. Okay.